Greetings and salutations, Miss Dawson here. I am going to talk to you about Texas and the Civil War. Okay, so there's a few reasons that the Civil War began, but the biggest one was slavery. So the South wanted slavery because they relied on slave labor for their economy. So your economy is how you make money, and they relied on slaves working to build up their economy. Okay, the North relied on paid labor. So they paid people that did their jobs. Now, the difference between the type of labor was different economies. The North didn't have as many farms, they didn't have as many plantations, so they relied on factories. The Northerners worked in factories. They did have some farms, but they had a bigger variety of ways to make their money. The South relied almost completely on plantations or on farms, okay? And that's where the slaves worked. And if they paid their slaves, then they wouldn't make as much money. Those farm owners, those plantation owners wouldn't make as much money if they paid their slaves. So they were like, no, we don't want to have paid labor. We want slave labor. Okay, so slavery was was the biggest issue. Okay, agriculture versus factories was another issue because the North had factories and they produced goods that the South didn't. The South didn't have factories. So the North said, we want to abolish slavery. We want to get rid of slavery. And the South said, no, we don't have these factories. We only have farms. We have agriculture. And we don't want to get rid of slavery because we have a different economy than you. Okay, so that brings us to our next issue, which is tariffs. So tariffs are like taxes that get put on goods and services. So the North had tariffs that helped them sell their goods. So they would have taxes on their items, but they sold them. So they would be making money. Whereas the South was importing those goods, so they would have to pay those tariffs. So the South felt like those tariffs were unfair, which brought us to our next issue, which is nullifying federal laws. So a federal government is the government of the entire country, so the entire United States. And they would pass these laws that said that taxes need to be paid on these goods. But the South was the one that were paying these taxes. So they wanted to have the right to nullify or cancel federal laws. They said, we're a state. We don't want to follow this law. It should be our right to cancel it out. We don't want it. Why would we have it if it doesn't help us? So being able to nullify federal laws was another issue for the Civil War. In 1860, the United States elected Abraham Lincoln, and the election was very divided. So the North all wanted Abraham Lincoln. They were, yay, we have Abraham Lincoln as our president. The South was like, no, we don't want Abraham Lincoln as our president. We didn't pick him. And it was almost literally like a straight line. You folded the country in half. The North wanted him. The South did not want him. So that election was huge because it meant that the federal government was going to be siding with the North. So the federal government, that means the president, was going to be siding with the North, and the South did not like that at all. So in 1860, Texas decided to secede, not succeed, secede. It is S-E-C-E-D-E, secede. That means that they officially left the United States. And they voted to see if this was a good idea. 46,000 Texans said, yes, we want to leave the United States. 15,000 said no. Part of those 15,000 was Sam Houston. So he was our governor at the time, and he was like, I don't want to leave the United States. They actually just joined the United States in like 1845. So they had only been part of the United States 15 years, and they were already leaving. But these huge issues were leading up to the leaving of Texas. And it wasn't just Texas that couldn't get along. It was 11 other states too. And these other 11 states, they said, we're not going to stay. We're going to leave too. And those 11 states joined together, and they called themselves the Confederacy. The Confederacy were the states in the South that left. The Confederacy wanted slavery. They wanted agriculture. They did not want tariffs, and they did not want to listen to the federal government. The North did not want slavery. They were abolitionists, so that means they wanted to free the slaves. The North did not particularly care about agriculture because their economy was based on a variety of things. The North was in favor of tariffs because the tariffs helped them earn money. The North wanted to listen to the federal government because the federal government was led by Abraham Lincoln, who they elected. So those were the major issues. In 1861 is when the Confederacy officially left the United States, and then that's what started some fighting. So that's going to be the start of the Civil War. We're going to get more into the details of the actual war another time. But for now, those were the main big issues that led up to the Civil War.